in this stage, you're the coach. But how can they coach themselves? Because they're just such animals and they want to go in and they train every day and they're getting ready for this powerlifting meet. That your body's in a weaker state when you're stressed out, when you were beat down emotionally at work or with the family or the bills we go back to. You're in a weaker state mentally, physically, and then you go into the gym and you still try to push those same numbers that you pushed when everything was great. If I could train longer than everybody, if I could lift more than everybody, then obviously I'm better than everybody. That's not the case. You took something that is, again, the majority of society is the gym is about muscles and getting stronger and making this body where you go, well, okay, but it could also be used to enhance your entire package, the mind. And that's a huge thing. And I hope you guys and everybody at home gets that, because the concept that you just gave is going to enhance them more than any workout, in a sense, body-wise. Than anything. Yeah, just that mind change.
It's about what you can recover from, right? And like with stress being an aggregate, it's like if they're so far down, like the stress response adaptation curve, like they're so just, they're right in the middle of midterms, and Condoleezza Rice called about in class, and they got to pay their crazy expensive tuition, and we're playing Cal next week, and we're gonna get the brakes beat off us by these bunch of Polynesian kids. It's like there's no point. Right? There's no point in introducing a stimulus they can't recover from. And that's not to say don't train hard.
No.
Right? It's just to understand that, look, if you're really focused on your goal, like this hashtag no days off crew or whatever, it's like if you were really focused on the outcome, because the outcome is to, train every day, then train every day. Sure. But if the outcome is to I look at training as like, and coaching people for whatever their goals are. It's like, look, the sport is life. And you're a strength and conditioning coach for life, where it's like for a rugby team, we have a very desired outcome. Like you want to decrease likelihood of injury, improve performance on the field, and hopefully that transfers over to skill and you can win games and win a championship, right? But for most people who don't have that, it's like, how can we start to implement strategies to use training as an adjunct to your life, which a lot of people might miss the boat on. It's like, look, if you need to scratch that itch and train every day, rock on. But if you think that is going to transfer over across the aisle to improving your physique to the best that you can, you're dead wrong.
Yeah. Well put. Well put. I hope you guys understand that. Let me back it down just a little bit for layman's terms, in the sense of you go into the gym, you're stressed out, but on your program, it says that you have to do your squats followed by your deadlifts, and you are beat down emotionally. But by you just going to the gym and just getting the workout in and changing it, maybe not such the extreme of a squat and a deadlift, but something that you're in there and you're still doing that battle, that emotional battle of being that beast that you want to be, instead of going home and calling it quits. That is somewhat in a metaphor of what we're talking about, is that be okay changing it, be okay knowing that the step forward in the gym is going to help you mentally.
Yeah, and I think
so much.
If you understand the principles of those two, like let's go with those two exercises. We have a squatting pattern and a hinge. It's like, all right, maybe you want to keep the weight off. You had a long day. You drove 9 hours, took the PCH. It's like, what was going to be a back squat is now a hack squat. I still, was blind by the end of it. Like I was seeing stars at the end of it. Like that's what I'm after. But that would have, on a barbell, I would have crippled myself. But it's like, all right, I need to go in a place where like I was sitting for 9 hours on this drive, maybe having, an unstable spine under load, probably not the best. I'm going to go to that hack squat in the corner and I'm going to put plates on it till I can't walk.
How can you calm down the beast in the corner? Because in this stage, you're the coach. But how can they coach themselves? Because they're just such animals and they want to go in and they train every day, and they're getting ready for this powerlifting meet. You got 8 more weeks. And again, they got to put the weight on their back today. How can you talk to them and say, let's, like they say, fight another day. Let's go in and do something, but let's not kill ourselves. Because this is where the injuries come. Because I don't think people realize that your body's in a weaker state when you're stressed out. when you were beat down emotionally at work or with the family or the bills we go back to. You're in a weaker state mentally, physically, and then you go into the gym and you still try to push those same numbers that you pushed when everything was great. How can they calm down? How do they question themselves? What do they need to ask themselves the importance at this point?
Well, that's like, I think it's always being goal oriented, right? Like if the goal is to put up a big total on the platform, what will like risk benefit ratio of going in and tearing a muscle by trying to, fully send it on that day where you don't feel up for it. Like if you can, when I see people make hastily decisions that are counterintuitive, but in the short term, like they satisfy this like, I'm so frustrated with everything. It's like, yeah, but dude, you haven't slept in 3 days, right? Like you can crank the Red Bull and turn on the 5-finger death punch or whatever your angsty music is, and you can go for it. But is that the same? Is that the behavior of a person who really wants to put up a big total in 8 weeks? Or is that the behavior of an angsty child who wants to prove how mad he is at the situation that he's in? And it's like, if you can get really clear and honest with yourself, then you'll make better decisions. Like, because look, I've torn tech and quad clean off the bottom. And by turning on Smashing Pumpkins and saying, I don't want to be a guy who puts up a big total in 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 weeks.
Hold on, what's going on here? You like fancy restaurants and Smashing Pumpkins.
Right.
Mo? Those are like your two favorites too. Okay, so you and me are gonna hang. We're gonna go to the nice little restaurant and enjoy, and then you guys can go hang out and listen to music and stuff.
I'll bring you Corgan.
Yeah. So you've lived it, you've done it. I can see why you're the coach and why you got that position, mostly at a school like Stanford. If you guys don't know, Stanford is an extremely top-notch school. But the way you speak about this, and again, it starts and it stems from your mindset, picking and choosing what's the most important thing. Continue forward. It's always about going to the gym. Maybe you agree or don't agree. Do the least amount of work possible, but still get better. Not to go in and destroy yourself. And it's a tough thing because I remember being 20. I remember if I could train longer than everybody, if I could lift more than everybody, then obviously I'm better than everybody. That's not the case. That's the case for that day, but you can't keep that, that continuous mindset up. So the way you put things and break things down, I love it.
I think there's a flip side to it, right? Like, because like you've done that. You were 20 years old and you've stayed in there longer than anyone else, and you did more reps, you did more sets, you did more weight, and you walked out and you're like, fuck yeah, that was awesome. But like you, in the continuing of your training, you realize now like that's not the play. But it's only because you've gone there. And so this works two ways. Because I've gone there and I've torn stuff off the bone and almost cut my head off with 200 kilo bench press and 661 squat and third rep tore my quad. Like, because I've gone there, when I say, hey, scale it back, I'm going to get more buy-in. But at the same time, when I say turn it up and you have a good program set in place, I'm working with an athlete and it's, we're in the middle of the off season right now. Like NFL camps are going to start spring training in April. Like I got a few guys now that like, look, when I say go, right? There's no timidity. Like, yeah, but when I say pull back, you pull back, right? Because I've been there what I should have and I didn't, and I pay the consequence. But a lot of people who don't have that experience, they just focus on when, like, oh, no, we don't want to overtrain. We don't want to overtrain. It's like, yeah, no, that's something for sure. But then because I have overtrained to the point of injury, I can be timid and say, no, not now. But when I put on the other hat, say, listen, dude, now's the time. You better march.
And don't give me any. I call that my leash off. I do the same exact thing. And we didn't plan this conversation, guys. We're just free balling and free balling. And again, off Facebook. I will tell them, this is the stage where we pull back. This is the stage where we relax. I'm going to ask for the leash off. And when I say leash off, I need your 100%. And I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear you gripe. I don't want you to say, hey, I'm tired today. I don't want none of that during this portion of time. We got 8 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And so I love it. It's the same kind of concept. There's going to be a lot of times where we say kind of pull back. And it's a give and take. Obviously, if we were working with the individual itself, we'll be able to say leash off. Okay, this one day we can't go leash off, but the majority of it is. And you've been injured in a stage completely the chest and the quad with those kind of numbers and stuff. this is a great transition right here. How, from those injuries, did you continue forward instead of saying, well, this ain't for me?
I mean, for me, it's not even an
Wasn't.
option, right? Like I tore my pec preparing for the Arnold's about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, or my quad preparing for meet after that. And it's like, it wasn't even a conscious thought. It was the first thing. I got hit by a car 5 years ago on my bicycle, the 91 Chevy.
I'm sorry about that. I apologize already.
Like, oh, there he is.
Rules of the road, stay to the side.
Well, but it's like, I remember going home and I tore my labrum, tore my bicep tendon, tore my rotator cuff, separated my AC joint. I'm like, okay, I can still do bicep curls. So I do bicep curls, but then there's something to that. Like, I think there's an intangible to it, right? And that's something that when you talk about like athletes and you get to work, we're lucky in the sense we get to work with professional athletes, like that's the X factor, right? Like, you know, the epigenetic expression of, look, you know, there's a bullet in the chamber, but the training will pull the trigger. And that, I think, is the biggest thing, is like that mindset behind, like I said the other day, like the dog's got to hunt, right? Like some people, that's the fork in the road. Like some people have it, some people don't. And that's up to you to figure out basically whether or not how much you love to train. And that's really it. Like, it's nothing more. It's not a beating of the chest, masculine, like how tough are you? Like how bad do you want it? It's like how much do you love it? Like because for me, it's like that's all I've done for 15 years of my life is lift weights. That's every day. What are we training? Or when do I get to train that? So that's a tough question to answer for people, because it's a question they can only answer for themselves.
Yeah.